Charles, investigating the internal spire for you. You have your swinging counterweight. We're not too sure what's actually happened here. You've had remedials done to stop the bottom of the box expanding out on itself, but I believe within the remedial maintenance you now have a contact point where the basket is meeting the floor on the furthest right hand corner away from the access ladder, which is allowing this to move, but this should have a minimum of about 2 inches beneath it. So if it swings at its highest point, say from there to this point, the 2 inches on the back side will allow it to move freely. With this not moving the way it should, I wouldn't like to envision what consequences may come of it. Working on the principle that it does look like the box has slipped on its axis, there are a number of measures we can do. We can shorten these chains for you by creating a hoisting system off the central strut and shorten these links here. But if you were standing, if I just get Tom to stand on this back face for you as I've moved around to where the ladder access is, you can't really see it on the camera, but the box is twisting on this axis to this corner. So predominantly the weight is now catching on this corner here.
This corner? Where
it's making contact with the floor. So eventually it's either going to wear the floor or the box or one of the two. So this is something we should be looking at doing a quick maintenance job on, maybe upgrade this chain, and we can do all of that without actually dropping the box onto the floor. So well, this is purely just a video advisory more than anything else. It does move, but it's not moving with the freedom it should do. It's actually spinning on one axis.
And this corner's supported to the floor.
Yeah, so ultimately it looks like the box has slipped.
It hasn't got a free swing,
yeah,
has it?
It has slipped in this direction and tilted itself forward. This is something we can remedy for you, no problem whatsoever. But at least you've been given a heads up as to what's actually happening with it.
And I think with the weather and the winter coming,
exactly, you can get quite a bit of movement.
This should be really done quite
yes, we
quite
can,
quickly.
Yeah, I would concur on that one. We'd figure out a system whereby we'd what we call French Prussic, which is a way of using nylon tape to create an anchor system off of this pole.
Can you shine your torch right to the top there, Stu? There you go. There, I can see it a bit better on the camera now.
So we get a bit of an anchor system going on here. We put a 1.5 ton turfer on to lift the weight of the box. So the box doesn't ever touch the floor, it stays in situ, but it'll allow me to remove the chains from this section here, maybe replace it with, I mean the chain is very static. I would probably look to have the D-links replaced just because there's something you should have done every couple of years anyway. I can also suggest that this lorry strap will just keep stretching and stretching and stretching until the fact that it goes ping. This should have been done like you can see the straps running, but with a bar with a bolt and a bar with a bolt, and I should be able to crank and tighten this up year in, year out to stop this bottom blowing up. If it was a chimney, or you've seen them on the church spires, they call them coronal bands, and the steeplejacks go up every year, give them a couple of turns and it stops the chimney from swelling out on itself. I'm using it as an analogy to try and give you an idea of how I would do this. 4 angular corners, so if we were talking the realms of steel, we would run 4 anchor lines up this corner here and then literally put rebar with threaded bolts on the end of it, and you just literally year after year tighten it up. The timber's in pretty good condition.
Got a bit of woodworm here though, haven't we?
Oh right, oh, I've not noticed yet. You've got a tiny bit of woodworm happening. Yeah. We can clean that back and get that addressed. That's the major
but the actual
issue.
wood itself feels very solid.
The timber itself is pretty solid. I would just look to be changing a few little things. You might as well have it done while we're up here. It's not excessively costed. And something that'll look quite nice as well when it's finished.
It's just the initial the swing of this balance weight.
That swing, we need to get that addressed ASAP.
Yeah, because that's not doing its job.
And I think if it was a temporary measure, we'd need to hire in a turf and some little bits of kit, and we could just pull it back on its axis this way until you get the go-ahead to do it. But this is something that we believe this is put in place to swing backwards and forwards, and as you can see, I physically cannot get that to swing on any more than this axis. So we'll come down and see about that. Internal pointing, There are a few bits of remedial works that need doing, and to gain access to the inside of this is no major shakes. And when we're up there, we'll give you a full video survey and photographic inspection of the internal spire. And if we time and date stamp anything, you can work from that date forward. I think that's about as much as we can do up here.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.